evening, everyone. Marlboro County School Board meeting, special call meeting, March 20, 2023, is now called to order. Notification of the media is here. Ms. Jacqueline Huff from the Marlboro House here. We want to thank you for coming out tonight. I need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we approve the agenda.
I have a motion on the floor. I got a second.
I second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Majority over. Now, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Brewer, will you do the invocation for us today?
Sure. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and be about your business for our community and for our children, Lord God. We thank you, Father God, for your grace and your mercy to carry out this job in the name of Jesus. We ask you, Father God, to help us make wise decisions. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Brewer, for the invocation. At this time, we have a first reading of a model policy for uncensored time. Ms. Barbara McCall. Hey, Ms. Barbara. How you doing today? All right. It's a beautiful Monday. Isn't it?
Good evening, Board Chair, Mr.
Morning.
Andrews, and Board, and it is a beautiful day, a beautiful day. In your packet, you received information about the required policy that we must adopt for the unencumbered time for teachers in pre-K through grade 5. This was approved on January 17th, and our policy must be adopted within the first 3 months, so I'm presenting for you for first reading this policy. I will say the principals have been notified and they've all worked with their schedules to help ensure that we can meet this requirement of the law and our policy. This will be at schools McCall, Bennettsville Primary, Bennettsville Intermediate, Clove, and Wallace, the schools that have grades pre-K through 5. 30 minutes per day must be given to each teacher in those grades or teachers teaching students in those grades, which would include your exploratories and those also. 30 minutes of unencumbered time each day. The policy was given to us as a sample policy from the state, which outlined the requirements as determined by the new proviso or the new law. So this is first reading tonight of this policy, and I put it before you for approval for first reading.
And Ms. McCall's policy is basically saying that the teachers need a 30-minute break with no school instruction.
Absolutely, it would be 30 minutes. And at one school, I'll just give an example, they're going to do a 90-minute exploratory. 30 minutes of that would be your unencumbered time, and then that would allow 60 minutes for professional development and those type things. So the principals have worked creatively to ensure that we meet this, and they're aware of it, and they've already built this into their schedule for next year.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Sure.
What hours are dedicated as a school day? From what to what?
That is determined individually by each school, because in our district, it has to do a lot with how the buses run.
That's what I was thinking.
So it's a 7.5-hour day is a contracted day, but where the beginning and ending time for those 7.5 hours fluctuate based on the start times of the particular schools. And if you need to know the start times, I can get you the start and stop times for each school and provide that to you, but that does differ.
I don't need to know them, but I think it's very important for the principals to know what we're dedicating as the start and finishing time for each individual school, so the teacher can have the time in between. I'm just saying, make sure everybody's on the same page.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I understand, absolutely.
And also, would there be
any circumstances where, as in with the time, and I know they're saying 30 minutes of unencumbered time, and I know the plan, like you said just now, for the 90-minute block, but would it require any additional staff members to assist in this anyway?
And we're looking at that at some individual schools. Smaller schools, of course, would have a little bit more difficult time because there's less staff. So if there is a need for an additional staff person, such as an instructional TA, to help out with that, the district is aware that that may be a possibility. But we will assure that we meet what needs to be met and support our schools in any way that we can with this unencumbered time requirement.
Yes, that was important because I know we getting prepared to do a budget discussion, and if that was a case that we would be needing that, then perhaps we probably need to include it in our budgetary talks that we're going to be doing.
If a principal felt like they needed additional help, they brought that to our attention during our budgeting talks, and we were made aware of that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Can I get a motion on the first reading of the model policy for unencumbered time?
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
I make a motion that we approve the first reading of the model policy for unencumbered time.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the first reading of model policy unencumbered time. All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. All opposed, if there aren't any, first reading has passed.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Ms.
support.
McCall. At this time, next on the agenda, we have the ABM Educational Services. The presentation, we have Mr. Randy Gam.
Yes, sir. And Frank Neal.
And Frank Neal. Just want to thank you guys for coming out and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you could possibly do to help us out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. Thanks for this opportunity to be before you here today. My name's Frank Neal. Mr. Gimmon is going to speak to you right after I speak. We're here with ABM. Working. Just to tell you a little bit about ABM, we are a Fortune 500 company. We're a $6.4 billion company. We've got about 140,000 employees worldwide. We have a lot of verticals, just about every type of facility improvement activity or facility-related activity you see we touch on. We are basically all over the country and the world working on projects just like yours. Our primary customers that we're dealing with are the universities, school systems, and local governments. Really anyone that has a lot of facilities and buildings. I'm going to run through a presentation that we give to most of our clients. This is just an overview, but what I'll tell you is that what you'll find is every one of our programs are tailored to your needs. So we're going to touch on a lot of the things that we do, but really take in mind that we tailor these programs to meet your needs. And really these are the things that most of our clients are telling us on a daily basis. Tax burdens are high on citizens. Uncomfortable learning environments for our students, aging facilities, fund balance challenges, deferred maintenance and control, rising operation costs, and state funding reductions. So focus on outsourcing as a possibility, and really that's what we're here to talk about today. The other thing we're talking about is deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance are, when your buildings are not being maintained because of budget constraints and the things that are not being taken care of. And a recent study said for every $1 you don't spend, it's costing you $4. And that's in maintenance, energy costs, and the like.
Is that per year?
That's in general over a term.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So, and really what we're talking about is changing the paradigm of how you do business with buildings. Most of the time you're thinking of a building as costing you money, having to pay for energy, having to pay for improvements. And we're talking about changing that mindset to where the buildings become a revenue source for you through energy savings. So instead of paying your energy provider those savings can help improve and pay for your facility improvements. How does ABM benefit Marlboro County school system? Through increased cash flow and flexibility, decrease in capital outlays, enhanced teaching and learning environments, and address immediate and future infrastructure needs. How do we do it? Through our guaranteed energy savings opportunity. And what that means is when we come in and evaluate your buildings, we provide you with improvements to those facilities that are going to save you dollars over time, and instead of sending those to your energy power company and water suppliers, it helps pay for your infrastructure. If we tell you it's going to save you $100,000 a year and it saves you $80,000, we write you that difference of $20,000. So that's the guaranteed aspect of it. A little bit about ABM. We've been doing this for a long time. We've got 4 superintendents that work with us, over 120 years experience. This program that we're talking about is made possible through legislation, that's South Carolina Code. We've done these programs, and you'll see that in a minute, throughout the state, throughout the Southeast, and throughout the country. We have an extensive experience working with Compass Municipal Advisors. Just about every program we've done in South Carolina, they have funded or financed. We work successfully with OSF. If anybody's worked with OSF, you know how difficult that can be. We have a good working relationship with those guys and help move those projects through in a timely manner. And of course, we pride ourselves in being a partner that helps our clients increase cash flow and flexibility. Some of the key points about ABM: we are vendor neutral. That is, we're not going to tell you you have to use our product or you have to use this name brand or whatever. We make it fit your program. We provide the unique and proven solutions. We have a long history track record of successful projects. The final solutions are co-authored. You'll hear that throughout our entire process. As I mentioned earlier, every project is unique and it's co-authored. We'll look at all of your facilities and we'll tell you where we think we can save you money and where we can solve problems or increase revenue. And together we'll bring that back to you, and you can say, hey, this is important, this is not important, and co-author that together and decide what direction you want to go in there. All of our construction projects are no change orders, so as soon as we tell you this is what it's going to cost you to do this project, it's guaranteed throughout the completed project until the project is done, and no change orders are ever included. We can assist with cost avoidance in these new buildings, as we discussed. It increases dollars for instructional programs through that guaranteed savings, and you'll see that as I'll show you some examples here with some other counties we've worked with. And the lease does not count against your 8% capital money. So in other words, your 8% capital max of debt is not impacted by what we use as typically a capital lease. So you have that debt available to do other type of projects you may want to do. So it gives you the opportunity to improve your facilities without impacting your debt limits. And again, we're 100% referenceable.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
When you say vendor neutral, the very first thing you said,
Right.
I'm assuming what you mean is cleaning this floor. You're going to have 4 different vendors come in and give you a price on this floor, and they're going to tell you what they're going to do, and they're going to tell you a price. Then you are going to choose one of those vendors. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct.
All right. If it's vendor neutral and we have a vendor in place, you will get a bid from them also or whatever, correct? As you go through.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
And I will tell you, just so we're clear, I'm one vertical. I'm the what we call building and infrastructure solutions. Randy's going to talk to you a little bit about janitorial and facilities maintenance.
I was just using that for an example.
Yeah. Just so you know. Okay. So, just an example of some of the school districts we've done throughout the Southeast. Our 2 latest ones are Orangeburg County schools. We're doing $32 million worth of improvements there. We've just done an add-on to that project where they've expanded their project as of last month for another $9 million. Finishing up Abbeville County School Systems as well. That was a $29 million project. And the one I don't have on here is Aiken County School Systems. And I tell you, that's an interesting project. We finished that project about 2 years ago. And they've just signed us, as of yesterday, to do a phase 2. We did a lot of things at that school system, HVAC, controls, lighting, infrastructure improvements, but we also did solar. We did solar on 7 of their schools. And of those 7 schools, we did it 2 years ago, the first 2 years, their bills went from $150,000, $200,000 a year to zero. So they're paying $0 in power bills now, and they got a credit back from the power company. What's important now, with the Biden Budget Reduction Act, as of this past year, January, in the past, solar was given as tax credits to private businesses. So school systems, local governments, government agencies didn't benefit from that tax credit from solar. And with the new act, instead of a tax credit, it's cash rebate. So as soon as you put the solar in, it's a guaranteed 30% back. If it's in a low-income district, 40% back. So if it's in a low-income census tract district, you get 40% cash back. A project, $400,000 back in the Marlboro County's bank account. Do you have to pay for the solar you just did? As a former city manager, I would tell you it's probably a good idea, but you don't have to. You can use it for salaries, computers, and anything else you want to do with that cash back. So you get a 30% cash back, 40% if it's low income. And I don't like to say the 50%. The 50% is if it's made in America. And I will tell you, we've already done some of the statistics on that. It's 20% more expensive, so the payback is not there. But the payback on solar is at an all-time great opportunity that we've never seen before. So we're doing a lot of solar right now.
I hate to keep interrupting you, but
No.
we have one school that when we built it, and most of the board's probably not aware of it, but we use thermal cells for the cooling and the heating.
Right.
Your company's familiar with that as well as solar?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I just posted in my LinkedIn, ABM hires, we've got 10,000 engineers on our staff. So we cover just about every type of engineering and solar and energy savings opportunities you can think of. So,
Okay.
Yes, sir. So again, what does it mean? Our facility expertise converts reduced expenses into capital improvements. So with those savings, you pay for that capital improvement. Why is it important? It really eliminates the budget volatility. In the middle of your school system, when you got that huge HVAC unit on top of one of your biggest schools and it goes down in the middle of summer and you got to replace it and you're wondering how you're going to pay for it all at one time, it eliminates issues like that. Because we've gone and evaluated it, you're paying it over time, it's a continuous payment at a low interest rate, and 15-year typically or 20-year payment payback. Again, energy savings saves your dollar, creates your dollars. So based on our standard percentages, Marlboro County Schools, typically ABM generates $940 of capital funding per student in energy savings in a BAS program. Operational savings is an additional $500 per student. So an average enrollment of about 4,100 students, you're looking at a projected savings of about $5.76 million in capital improvement projects that you could self-fund. That savings is estimated about $384,000 annually. That $384,000 annually pays for that $5.76 million in debt capital lease to pay for those capital improvements. Randy's going to talk about some of this, but this is enhanced cleaning. We do this. I'm not even going to steal his thunder, but this was in my presentation already, but we do enhanced cleaning. I will tell you, on all of our HVAC units, we do what's called bipolar ionization. Bipolar ionization is something ABM has been putting on all their systems for the last decade or more, and we do that for energy efficiency. But during COVID, a number of white papers were produced that said that bipolar ionization kills the COVID and reduces the outbreak in facilities. And all the facilities that we had put it in had lower cases of COVID. So I think that's important to highlight. And I will say we do that on all of our new HVAC units we put in place, but also HVAC units that don't need replacing when we go through a program. We put the bipolar ionization on those existing HVAC units as well. This is just an example. I think we were talking about Anderson County School District 2 program we did. We guaranteed them a savings of $220,583 annual savings. We surpassed that. $392,000 annual savings is what they ended up realizing. So they ended up coming in with 171, that bottom number down there, $619,000 additional funds in their general fund that they could use for other reasons, whether it's computers, books, salaries, or the like. Again, Turner County School System, this one was in Georgia. Same thing, the guarantee was $258 annually. We anticipated $284, and the actual savings was $369,151. Again, $110,000 annual fund improvements to their general fund. Key takeaways, it was improved. That was on my last slide. I guess it didn't come through on that one. We know what makes these moments possible. We understand the challenges, and the ABM program can be a contributor to your success. One other thing I wanted to highlight that we're doing a lot in school systems now, ABM does turf fields. This is in Madison County School Systems in Georgia, a field that we installed. We work with some of the leading providers of turf in the country. This turf is the same turf that's in the Georgia Dome the Atlanta Falcons play on. So we provide turf fields that are part of these programs. The energy savings has to be included in your capital lease, but there's opportunities for other things you cannot find funding for, like turf fields. Turf fields actually is considered energy savings as well, but if a new scoreboard, for example. We did a new scoreboard and did bleacher improvements at this facility as well. So you can roll those type of projects into your capital lease as long as the energy savings is there, and that helps you cash flow those type of projects that you normally would not have the funds to pay for. We typically, the way our program works, we typically come in, we'll do a preliminary assessment of your facilities. We call it our 10,000 square foot view from above. It's done at no cost to the school system, no commitment at that time. All we ask for to do that is your annual energy spend for each one of your buildings and your square footage for each one of your buildings. And then we schedule a day to come through with your, meet with one of your facility guys that knows all the buildings and has access to your mechanical rooms and the like, and do a walkthrough of those buildings. And we do basically a preliminary evaluation of all your mechanical room and all your mechanicals of the building. With that, we come back to you, present our preliminary findings, and tell you if there are any possibilities for a program. We like to say it's an opportunity for us to vet you as a client and for you guys to vet us as a partner. The typical process after that is then after that you post an RFQ. Other what we call ESCOs can participate. We are doing more now in Georgia and South Carolina, co-ops, to where if you're a member of TIPS, which is a national co-op program, you can select one of those vendors without going through the RFQ process. Eliminates a lot of the time frame and a lot of the issues related to RFQs. And then again, after that selection is made, then we come back and we do what we call a full grade audit and look at every aspect of every building, count every light in every building, look at every piece of equipment in detail, and come back to you and say, here's your total project cost, here's your total annual savings, and here's your guaranteed savings that we can provide you. With that, you can decide, yes, we want to include this, no, we don't want to include this, yes, this is a high priority, this is not a priority. And with that, you come to an agreement, and we work on your financing. These projects do not have to be financed. We always say we take cash. It can be used ESSER or ARPA funds can be used, sales tax can be used, other funds can be used to pay for these projects. And if you don't finance it and you have those cash funds, all those guaranteed savings just go back into your general fund for general fund relief to where it impacts your general fund budget. After that, the project is approved by the board. The program begins. We do the construction project. Payment on the project does not begin for 1 year after completion. So that gives you 1 year to get your energy savings during that period to pay for that first year's payment. So you have those funds stacked up before you get ready to make that payment. And after that, the project is complete. What is unique about ABM in this type of project? It's not similar to other construction type projects, is that we are with you for the entire haul because we have vested interest. If it's a 15-year program, a 20-year program, we're with you the entire time. Because if we've got that guarantee and something goes astray, we want to know what's going on. Let's just say we guaranteed $100,000 annually. It comes in $80,000 and we're having to write you that $20,000 check. We're going to send our engineers down here to find out why, what's going on, what's changed. School systems, for example. Oh, this classroom was turned into a computer lab. Well, computers have a lot more energy consumption, things like that, and we're going to help you correct that and adjust. So we're with you the entire process. LED lighting, for example, we give you 10 years worth of LED lighting that you'll never have to replace during that process. So we're with you throughout the entire process. Unlike a lot of general contractors, once you do a project, you can't get them back on the site. So that's kind of an overview of what we do at the solution side. And do you want to ask questions now, or you want to let Randy do his and then ask them all at the same time?
I got a quick one for you.
Sure.
How often do you evaluate the savings? I mean, you said if you did $100,000 and it came in that we $20,000 over, we put it in our pocket. But how often do you change those numbers?
The numbers don't change. We review it annually.
You don't allow for any inflation in your numbers, but they don't change.
Yes, there is inflation included in all the numbers. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they may change from year to year.
And that's included in your spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So, I have a question. Anybody else got a question?
I'm gonna wait down there.
You want to wait?
Wait down there.
Sure. I see the start dates you have. That was just in case we started now. So if we would start with you guys saying in September, that would change from September 2023 to September 2024 for the first payment, right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's just to kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like.
Good.
And what I did bring, I brought two things. I brought an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, which is really the first step we take to do the collection of the data, the square footage and the power spend for 1 year. And then the second is the master development agreement to give you guys an idea, which is that after the RFQ process or ESCO process.
And one other question that
Yes, sir.
If we would choose to do this, the preliminary feasibility study would be absolutely at no cost to the district.
Correct. Yes, sir. The only thing we would need to get that done is your 1 year's energy cost for each facility, the square footage, and then the day we visit someone to walk the facility.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other questions?
But I'm gonna wait till
Okay, thank you.
Well, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
With these capital lease, and I know most of these programs that guarantee savings, what is the estimate of the outlay that a district typically have to put out for one of these programs? And I know it may change based on what each school, each district is in need of, but the upfront cost for a district, what is that?
To do the capital lease. So, for example, the other thing that makes a capital lease extremely attractive compared to like a bond, I don't know if you guys have been through the bond process, but bond process can be an extremely expensive process with all the attorneys and all the other legal aspects that have to be done. You have none of that with the capital lease. So it's really there's no upfront cost for the capital lease. What we typically do, we have used Compass Compass pretty much has most of the business in South Carolina, but I will tell you, we will shop it around for you. ABM makes no money on the lease. We're contractor. Construction is where we make our money. So we want you to get the best interest rate and the best terms. And again, that can be negotiated. You know, if you want an early pay down in 5 years, you can negotiate that. There's different things that can be done. But there's no upfront cost like a bond, that heavy impact that a bond takes. Capital lease, we'll shop it around to multiple lenders, and you decide, you know, we'll make a recommendation, hey, this is 1/4% less than the other, you know.
What I was actually looking for too, not so much as who we're gonna shop it around.
Right.
I was just looking for a roundabout dollar figure, even if we were shopping it around.
No dollar figure. There's nothing. It doesn't cost you anything. Only thing it costs you is to go into just like a mortgage. It's basically like a mortgage payment. It doesn't cost you any upfront fee like a mortgage though. You know the terms. That first year payment is the only upfront fee you have that after the first year.
And the first year payment will be based upon?
1 year later.
1 year later, we're based upon all the work that we contract you to
Correct.
do.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we contract out $2-3 million of work.
That's right.
That's what it would be.
That's right.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah.
That's what
So-
I was trying to get you to say.
Yeah, so 2 or 3, so let's just say $5 million worth of work, more amortized over 15 years or 20 years. You can do more project, lesser payments, you know, with 20 years. We're doing more 20 years lately. So yes, it's amortized out how much the interest rate is and how much you take out.
And you'll be able to give us that figure once you conduct the feasibility study in May.
Absolutely.
I think that was getting at the time, right?
So while we on this, I was gonna wait, but it's a PowerPoint up there that give us some figures.
Yes.
How did you come up with that? You already kind of guaranteed us an estimate of savings.
So that is based on our typical savings we've done
So it's really-
in Georgia and South Carolina alone, not in the country. It's based off of the country, but in Georgia, South Carolina, we've done about 100 of these programs. So that is our typical average return on school systems.
So really, that has kind of no merit. That's just a.
Now, it's a
just a number.
general figure.
Was
It's pretty close, though. I will tell you, just about
Wasn't
every one we've done has been very close to that.
Wasn't that based on 4,100 students?
Yes, sir. That
It was
was.
based on 40. We had about, what, 3,700?
But it wouldn't have the infrastructure or nothing.
That's right.
So, no, that's it. That does not, what do you mean?
No, one more. You can go up like 2 or 3 more. It's already something with Marlboro County got a heading on it. Go down one.
Right there.
It's already got a heading and potential. Like, but you pretty much stated you haven't even been anywhere but put those numbers up.
That's correct. That's just what we typically have return on high school or school systems throughout Georgia and South Carolina. That 940 and 500 is our typical return. Honestly, it can be higher and it could be lower.
Okay.
In most cases, it's higher. We always like to show you the low ball. So,
Of course.
so-
Yes, sir.
So you have more potential than that.
Thank
Anyone else?
My question was regarding ESSER funds. I had already written that down before you said that. And I
Yes.
know that they're getting ready to expire, use it or lose it.
Yes, sir.
How quickly could we get like a project done without us losing our ESSER funds?
Pretty quick. So we're working with a number of schools under the same situation you're in. So what we can do is accelerate the projects and get your payout and pay down to where the project, that aspect of your project is completed first, if that makes sense. So yes, we've been able to accelerate a number, and I will tell you, it's because I'm going to tell all my school systems and local governments the same thing. With supply chain going on with COVID, it's still a serious issue with supply chain. So the sooner you can make a decision and get rolling, the better. Now, I will tell you, ABM has tremendous buying power compared to most companies. We're the #1 installer of trained commercial HVAC units in the country. So we have access to big commercial units that most companies, small, medium, and large companies don't have. We're a huge company, so we have tremendous buying power. We have access to get those things a lot sooner. But it's affecting us as well, but we're ahead of most people. So it's very important. It's a great question, because I did not touch on that. It's important. Anyone else?
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll give this to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My name's Randy Gaiman. First met Michael Coachman at SCSBA. We're proud to sponsor that this year, and honored to be here in front of you today and appreciate the hard work that you do each and every day for public education. Wanted to talk about a different arm, a different division of ABM. I work in the facility maintenance service arena. So with that, I wanted to talk through some things. I encourage you to just stop if you have questions. I want to hit on some high points with you today. We start, when we're in our accounts, we start with a moment of safety. We get a moment for safety every day of the year. And this was top of mind for me several years ago when I was driving through the upstate and came up on the Townville Elementary shooting, where a young boy was killed as a result of an 18-year-old that had killed his father and come onto a playground and shot the young boy. He was airlifted to Greenville, and about 2 or 3 days later, he was pronounced dead. So obviously, being in these buildings, it's paramount for our people to be in alignment with all of the policies in place for the district, to include knowing that if somebody's walking down the hall and is not badged or identified properly, to make sure we escort that person to the front office. And most importantly, keep those doors locked and secured. This next slide, just real quick things on here. Rising operating cost. School districts are constantly under pressure to do more with less revenue. And with ESSER money going away in the future, that's going to become more and more apparent for many districts. When you talk about the deferred maintenance and really the staffing challenges, COVID has obviously made a mark. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Those are the key points here. So we like to use these acronyms. We overuse them. IFS stands for Integrated Facility Services. The services that I want to point to specifically here are the facilities engineering piece. That's your HVAC, plumbing, your certified trades folks that are doing work on site in the buildings every day. These are all on-site programs, and they can be standalone or they can be bundled. So it's facilities engineering, also janitorial, and the third is landscape and turf. We've got some wonderful people in all of these arenas that are highly skilled, experts in their field. So those are the three areas that I wanted to touch on with you today. The first thing out of the chute, when you're working with a district that is in-house for some of these services, is the people. That's where it starts and ends for ABM. So I wanted to share this with you. When you look at making this type of a conversion, our main goal is to retain talent and retain everyone that's here. With that, there may be some opportunities to advance those folks. That's one of the things that ABM affords our folks that districts don't have as much flexibility in. When you look at the medical, the dental, the vision, we offer PPO plans through United Healthcare. We don't have a pension per se, but we do have a 401k matching program. So if you invest 3% of your paycheck into that 401k, ABM will match it dollar for dollar. The next 2% they'll match at 50%. So it's a very lucrative offering that not every company offers. So our goal and intention here, and one of the things that we look to do as we go through the process to evaluate and build out an assessment and a recommendation, is to make sure that we understand the tenure of the employees that are on staff, how many days they're working, what their vacation looks like, all of the benefits so that we can look to align and keep people whole to the best of our ability, and there's lots of ways to do that. So with that in mind, any other questions here? I'll keep moving. We can come back to
I
it.
got one quick question
Yes,
for
sir.
you. Have you had any problems finding employees for your jobs?
Yes, that's been ever changing. So we've had accounts where we've had for years where wages have pushed up, and we've had to respond to that. And we've come to the table and said, we've done our analysis, we're looking at where we need to be, and oftentimes we have to pay that forward in order to align with a budget scenario. We use different third-party sources now. We have a talent acquisition team that was stood up about 1.5 years ago, pretty timely, really, when it comes to the COVID scenario. So they're constantly recruiting and supporting our operators in the field. But specific to your question, we look at that ERI data and look at it in terms of understanding within Bennettsville what the wage structure looks like for someone that's been a custodian for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, all the way through the trades. And I brought some of that information I can leave behind for you today. But I will say this, we had an instance with the district recently where they were looking to make a change in a provider, and they needed to do it quickly. So they went through a purchasing cooperative at ABM, and in doing so, we were able to start them up in October, which is a very odd time to start operations in the school district. We had to hire 80 people in 30 days. We had 30 days to start up. And our talent and acquisition team came back to our operators and said, we've got 120 people in the pipeline. We need to stop recruiting at this moment to place these people because we had enough to fill. So finding the right wage is critical. And obviously it has to be justifiable because we're talking about money. That's the biggest part of any of these contracts, just as it is for a school district. Does that answer your question, or did you have a follow-up to that?
That's fine. I guess my main concern was, you're in Columbia, yeah, you've got a big workforce. You're in Myrtle Beach, you got a big workforce. You in Marlboro County, you're going to have a small workforce. It's going to be difficult to attract folks here to work on with your job, even no matter what you're paying. So I was just curious on how you would handle the situation when you got here, I guess. And basically what you're saying is you're going to advertise like everybody else, and you're going to try to bring in recruits, and you're going to try to work that. So it's basically the same thing that I was thinking you probably do, but that was my concern.
Yeah. So to follow up on that, good point. Our focus is to be local. When we come in, we're not looking to just bring teams of people in from other states or even other counties. But to that point, we have had many cases in clients where similar makeup in terms of population within the county, where we've had to make sure that our wages align to be able to justify somebody that wants to come in from a neighboring county. We've even gone to the point of shuttling, going to where our employees are to be able to shuttle and bring them in. That's been a very effective tool for us as well. At the end of the day, we're in agreement with you, and it falls upon us to make it happen. So that's why we take a lot of investment of time and energy to make sure that we know what those wages are that's going to bring stability to the staffing, because it's a challenge everywhere. And that's something that will be shared going through the process should you choose to go down that journey.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Grissom, you said you would retain the employees that we have here to keep on board, so you wouldn't have to start off looking immediately, but at the same time, when you do the assessment and there's some needs, say for instance with the HVAC training and stuff like that, because some of our employees may not know how to work on it, do you have someone you can bring in to train the employees to bring
Yes.
them up to speed on it?
Yes, sir.
And,
That's part of what you're investing with us, is to make sure that we can hire those certified trade skilled workers. If we don't have them and we don't have it identified here, then we need to be able to bring those folks in. And when we do, we have ongoing training through our mechanical engineer, Doug Mitchell, that oversees that team specific to facilities engineering. So that would be part of the agreement.
What if, being that someone being in the district, say for instance, 20, 25 years close to retirement,
Right.
so the change up like that, they may losing some state retirement. What would you have to offer to replace that, or either how would you handle that situation for us hiring someone?
That's a good question. I would look at it one of two ways. We would either look at it in a way to pay the difference of what they would be putting into that pension in terms of putting it into their paycheck, would be one scenario. The other is some districts will look at this after we put together the recommendation, and there might be one or two folks that are close to retirement, and rather than bring them on to our payroll, leave them where they are, and as natural attrition occurs and that individual moves on, then we would backfill that
So
position.
they still would be able to stay within that system through the district?
Correct. Excellent question. Thank you.
So I had a similar question because I used to work for the county, so I had state insurance. How does your insurance hold up to, I know it says marketplace mall discounts and all that, how does that hold up to state benefits?
It's close. There is some difference in premium. So in that case, we would look and see how many employees are taking single versus family, spouse, and align those costs up so that if it's $20 more a month, we're putting it in their paycheck to keep them whole.
Okay.
Another great question. These are some of the folks that we do work with. This is just a cross-section. I'll point out a few of them. Central Piedmont at the top is the largest community college in North Carolina. We do an IFS model there. It's custodial, grounds, as well as the maintenance piece. Another one right in the center is Beaufort County Schools. We have a team of 60 folks that do only facility maintenance, facility engineering for the district. So that's another one that's in the neighborhood, as it were. I point out Rockdale County Schools because in 2012, they were considering what you may be considering down the road. They went from a in-house model to a turnkey custodial services model, and we still are servicing them today. And we still have employees that were there then, legacy to the district, that are still on payroll with us. Another one to point out, Harris County. Harris County we've had since 2012, very similar in makeup. They're about 5,000 students with, I think, 8 schools. And we do the custodial and the facility maintenance piece for that district as well. So I can get you some folks to call and reach out to and touch base with, but I wanted to give you some perspective on some of our clients.
That Chesterfield County, that's not in South Carolina,
It's
is it?
in Virginia.
Virginia?
Yep. Good question.
We have a Chesterfield.
Yes, you do. They do not contract at this time.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, very good question. So just, I think the main thing to keep in mind, ABM's a large company, but the folks that work in the Carolinas are married to the Carolinas. We're not going all over the country, and we're focused in education. So you can see some of the footprint that's there. We're servicing 250 districts, over 500 million square feet. That's all great and wonderful. What we care about is what happens here if you decide to go down this path and look to add you to our family of growing clients.
Is,
Yes.
may I just, is Scotland County in North Carolina one of your,
They are not. They're contracted with another provider. They went out to bid a couple of years ago, and I don't recall who they went with. But yes, they are contracted now. You could talk to them too.
on the map?
Yeah.
A little, I thought maybe that was,
Yeah, on that map, we've got, and I was going to mention that, we have offices, brick and mortar offices in Spartanburg, Charleston, Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro. So we've got literally thousands of people working in North Carolina. We're vested, and South Carolina, we're vested in the Carolinas. And I wanted to share this with you too, because when you make this kind of a change, you have one time to make it right, and nothing's ever perfect. But we take a lot of the lessons that we've learned over time, we're not perfect, and applied it to our transition team And these are some of the districts that we've started up of late. And one of them, I'm just looking at Northwest ISD. That's all the way out in Texas. Why is Randy talking about Texas? When we started up that contract, we found out in the transition that 75% of the existing staff spoke Nepali. Nobody on our staff knew how to speak Nepali. So those are the types of things that we can run into, and we have to adapt and be in a position to work through those items. So you can see there's just a list here, and obviously there's a lot of money and investment to make this work and do it right the first time, because signatures are on this, and it has to work for all the right reasons, primarily our children. So from a maintenance piece, has anybody heard of what's called APA standards before? APA stands for the Association of Physical Plant Administrators. It was really born in higher education, but they have standards for maintenance, they have standards for custodial. So a lot of districts that I work with and talk to are underfunded or have cost cut in this arena, and they're working with short staff situations where their maintenance really is more reactive than planned. So the APA standards that are in place, most folks are looking to go for an APA 2 standard. An APA 3 is more considered managed care, and APA 4 is totally reactive. When we get into the weeds and look and do an analysis for you here, we'll summarize these points. The thing that we would do that I think would make an impact for you in the district here is, if you haven't done so, there's an acronym called CMMS, which stands for Computer Maintenance Management System. That system is used not only for work orders, but for scheduling preventative maintenance to make sure that you're keeping the equipment operating at its optimal level, because that downtime is what kills everybody. When you look at all of your mechanical items throughout the district, one of the things that we would do and offer, if it hasn't been done already, is what's called asset tagging. So we would tag all of those mechanical assets and also look at a life cycle analysis on those, so that when we're putting together the plan, we're doing so in a way that maximizes return rather than going to fix something when it's broken. And that may not be happening for you here, but that's a key area, is marrying those elements together to maximize the mechanical side of the house for the district. When you look at the custodial piece, our people, of course, is at the top. When you look at what's going on in today's supply cost arena, we're seeing significant cost increase in the area of paper, even equipment. Equipment's difficult for a lot of vendors to get. One of the things that I think makes a tremendous boost for morale for employees when we earn the right to serve a district is having new equipment, having equipment and the right tools. There's a lot of innovation going on. There's what's essentially called an iMop, which is a scrubber that looks like it's a mop, but you can actually mop and scrub out a classroom twice as fast as you could by hand. There's a lot of things that we can bring to the table that make our folks as effective as possible and happy as well, and most importantly, to give the results that you want. Because, you know, you look at, who's familiar with Buc-ee's in Florence? Buc-ee's?
Yeah.
What a lot of people do know about Buc-ee's is they have inexpensive gas. They don't allow trucks. Their business model was built on clean restrooms. That's what they're passionate about. So when it comes time to, you know, looking at what goes on a day-to-day basis, restrooms is always paramount for everyone. Everybody deserves to use a clean restroom, And if a child does not use a restroom because they perceive it as dirty, not sanitized, that creates a problem for the learning of that individual. And there's been studies that have shown to back that up. But when you're looking at the custodial side of the house, most often that's turnkey. We're giving a fixed cost on an annual basis that allows you to budget towards that number. And that generally includes all of the equipment, all of the supplies, all of the consumable products, and the labor. So you can look at it in a siloed effect, or you can bundle some of these services together. There are some economies of scale, especially on the fixed cost of the management side, should you choose to bundle. So I'm going to end with this last slide, and I will say this. In terms of timelines and looking at something like this, once we have some baseline data in hand, it's usually about 2 weeks to get in and walk the schools, another 2 weeks most to get back in and actually make a recommendation. I know you're fast approaching your new fiscal year. So this may not be something that you push forward now. If you do, we'll support that and fast track that for you. But if not, we can look for the future as well. But the thing that is helpful, I think, as you look through our recommendations and our assessment is being able to see and reverse engineer our numbers and understand how we're coming up with what we are coming up with, down to transparency of profit and all the other costs that are associated with it, so that you can determine whether it's really worth going to RFP, A, or B, if you decide to do a purchasing cooperative and really build out and architect those programs, you can do that as well. So with that, I'll pause and address any questions. Thank you for your attention.
I have one more, Mr. Frank. Some of our, when it comes to the custodial part, and I don't know if maintenance are working for temporary services, but they've been here for a few years. Would they be able to be retained along with the regular employees of the district?
Absolutely.
Upon the,
would be encouraged.
With full benefits, yes, as the other employees? Yeah,
there would be no delineation between the two, if that was what was the goal, was to keep everybody whole.
So basically, when you do the feasibility study and get the information you need from us, you will bring us back showing us basically what the salary cost that you would be able to pay our employees that are here through ABM instead of the school district.
That's correct. We would show what our plans would be based on where they sit today and how we can keep them whole.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Can you back up a couple of slides to your maintenance?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'm going to make sure I understood you.
Yes, sir.
What you said was, with your maintenance operations, you're going to come in and you're going to evaluate all of our schools as far as the maintenance that is needed in each school. Maybe it's air conditioning, maybe it's painting, maybe it's whatever. But you're going to evaluate those, and you're going to have that incorporated into the price that you quote to us, where you're going to be saving us the money before we ever start. Am I correct in the way I'm interpreting this?
That's a great question, and thank you for that. The asset tagging and the life cycle analysis would not be part of the initial assessment that we do. That would be part of our program when you green light and go. What we will do is a facility condition index of the building. When we walk through with our engineer, we'll look at components of the mechanical and give a review of where we see the district falling in terms of rating and priority and what needs to be worked on first. So the actual full life cycle analysis and the asset tagging would be done as part of our transition and startup into the contract itself.
So those figures would not be in the beginning figure that you tell me, and just using yours, for example, $80,000 and you save me 100, or vice versa, and you pay me an extra 20. Those figures will not be in that.
Those figures will be in that number, and they can be itemized so you can see what they are. It just won't be part of the assessment and our recommendation when we come back as it relates specific to asset tagging and life cycle analysis. That'll be a lot more time and money to build that out, and you can choose to include it or not have it. But that'll be part of the itemization of the recommendation that we would make.
And again, and changing this by flow just a little bit, each school will be treated individually for maintenance and for custodial or whatever. You have a price. Each school will have this price on it in case we don't choose to do this school. We're going to move our employees over there. So we would have each school separated where we would know what we wanted to do with each one, correct?
That's correct. So to give it another analogy or example, if you decided to do 4 of your schools and not all of them, that would dictate a different price because the fixed cost of the supervision would be not spread out over as much square footage. So when we bring back the turnkey, as it were, if you want to look at it differently, you can do that. But and it's not talking about a big number, but it would change a little bit, and we would explain why it's changing. But that would be the only difference. But when we give you the recommendation, we can break down the pricing really, whatever way is preferred by the board. But typically it's done a monthly figure, an annual figure. Some cases we'll do a square footage tied to that specific building. But again, we want it to be in a mode that's easy to digest and to understand where the costs are going and why they're there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Well, it's in line with what Mr. Driggers was just talking about. When you bring us the data back, we'll be able to compare it with where we currently stands in the district. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And one of the things that I like to do, oftentimes what I find is a lot of these costs get bundled into an operations bucket, and they may not be necessarily clearly separated by custodial versus maintenance, grounds, whatever. So if I'll put together a return on investment projection based on what I've seen in the state, and then you can go through it and make corrections and make sure that it's in alignment with what's actually happening. But I want to put that out there too so that it's easier to jump in and really get to it pretty quick. Good question, thank you.
I have an insurance question. Let's say hypothetically a ABS custodian worker gets hurt. What would be the district's liability with that?
Great question. One of the things that we have seen, usually when you're talking about this kind of a change, because change is difficult. Us humans don't like change. I don't. We've had districts come to us where the workman's comp was so out of control that was the driving reason to do this.
Yeah.
So we bear it. That transfers completely to ABM.
All the insurance.
And that is for some districts, that's a big push.
That is a big, all the medical insurance bill.
You've got some districts that, when you look at the age, there's been studies done that show that the average age of a custodian is 55 years old. Maintenance, same thing. So there's, you're losing skilled people through retirement. That's happening too. Obviously, cost can be a part of it. We saw a big push in 2008, 2009 in growth because districts needed to save money. So we really want to understand and be clear on what your goals are so that when we build this out and we present it to you, that's in alignment with your vision, if you decide to go down this path, can be met comfortably and confidently. Other questions? Good ones. Thank you.
The last one I have was, how stringent is your vetting process for your staff as far as like drug tests, random drug tests and things like that? Because they're going to be in here with our kids,
We do national and state background checks. Typically, in most of our accounts, we fingerprint as well. We also have the ability to do various levels of drug testing all the way up to hair follicle, which is much more than a typical 5-panel test. There's cost associated with it. I will tell you that many of the districts that we work with leave it up to the vendors. There's cost associated with all of that, but whatever your comfort level is, we'll meet, and we do work with all of it all over the country, and that's a great point and something that we would make sure that we talk about and cover as well, because We have really good insurance too for that as well, because it can happen and they're working around kids. So.
That's good. We want to prevent that, though, from
That's
having
correct.
to use it.
We want to prevent it, but sometimes people go crazy.
Sure.
I know we're asking a lot of questions. Let's go.
No. Y'all serious?
Yes, sir.
Just like a management question as far as like, let's say one of the IBS workers are unruly, maybe, come in intoxicated, whatever. Will there be an on-site manager, or will the principal have to, because they're not district technically employees, so how does that work?
Great question. So we would have a dedicated site manager. If we're just doing one of those pieces that I reviewed, we will not run a program without a site manager that's salaried and dedicated to the district. We don't share management anywhere.
Okay.
There's folks out there that will do that. That's just not our model. So any type of issue that would come up with that for a principal, if that individual, based on what the principal has witnessed, we'll suspend, put that person into HR, go through the channels. But we have instances where districts come to us and say we need to remove somebody, and that person's removed. Doesn't happen all the time, but it does, and it can. So good question.
Your site manager will be on site with the crew, working with the crew as a paid employee also, though, right?
That's correct. There'll be a salaried individual that has is the single point of contact for basically 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That person's on call, because that individual has to be an extension of the district, or it doesn't work. We found that through experience over the years. So that management piece is a key element. That's another thing that we spend a lot of time and money to invest in. There are cases where we have bench managers that are interested in making a move, and there's cases where we have to go through and do the normal vetting that we always do to find someone. We've had a lot of success with districts that know somebody in the community that would be a potential good fit, and we welcome that. Obviously there's a trust factor involved in something like that, especially if it's somebody that you know, and we don't run from that, we run to it. We welcome that.
I got one quick one.
Yes, sir.
We've looked at this kind of in the past, and a lot of the custodial was, we have one person on call during the day, and your custodial staff came in at night and did most of the work as far as cleaning the bathrooms and all that. They worked after hours in the school. Your maintenance program, is that the same way? They work after hours just in case, it may give a conflict with school day and what's going on with is that the way your business works?
Yeah, a lot of that maintenance is going to happen during the day, but you've got to be able to flex and have folks on call after hours as well. So those people would be identified and trained to handle that as needed when it comes up. And as far as school events go with the custodial, that's something that we own. If it's school sponsored, we cover it. If you need, a lot of districts, you may have some community type events where you've got some rental fees that you're able to charge. That would be a one-off, but you're not going to be looking at a lot of extra invoices to do things unless there's just something out of the ordinary that we can't accommodate with the existing staff we have.
But most of the custodial will be done at night, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Custodial.
So I was thinking.
So that's one of the things we look at, in particular, as it relates to student counts in the schools. So that student count oftentimes will drive what we recommend in terms of how many people are assigned for the day. But it also comes down, every district, every school is unique. And if that principal, based on experience, has a comfort level with, having 3 instead of 2, for example, then we make sure that we can identify that and include that so that there's no surprises.
Thank you again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Just want to thank you guys for coming out. There's a lot of information gathering, and it's an action item. We don't want to do. If we want to move forward for conduct for a free preliminary feasibility study with ABM, a free
Yes.
If all in favor, I'll just get a motion and they could come back in May to conduct a preliminary feasibility study at no cost to us, and we can see where we're at.
It's called feasibility.
Huh? We can ask him. Mr. Gresham, I got a question from the superintendent. Say, can you come sooner than May?
Well, if you can provide me with the power bills, square footage.
Yeah, we got to do our homework
Yeah,
before we
exactly.
can do what.
That's the biggest.
Okay.
That is usually what slows our process down, I'll be honest.
Well,
Yet the school systems and the local governments and universities provide that information. But as a corporation, we have to have that.
Free consultation? Free consultation?
So yes, as soon as you get that information to me, we can probably be out within a week after that. We plug that information into our program.
Let's say April.
and get the,
let the district handle that.
walk facilities.
Still gotta make the.
Cause we could have the communication between yourself and Ms. Grills, Mr. Andrews, to work that part out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that-
And actually, I think I've got an email to
That's Ms. Greer.
Yeah.
and so she's got the
Okay.
request of information.
You need a motion?
Yes, sir.
What month, May?
As soon as possible, within the next 2 weeks,
Mr. Board Chair,
and whenever they can. Okay, yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a ASAP as soon as possible, a feasibility study for Marlboro County School District.
For the preliminary feasibility study with ABM.
Yes, with
I have a
ABM.
motion on the floor. Did I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to move forward to conduct a preliminary feasibility study with ABM. Any discussion? All in favor? That number raise your right hand. All right. Thank you for that.
May I
Look
just,
forward-
may I
Now,
just ask a quick question, so the board hears this, so that we're on the same page? Would it be possible that the sooner that you can come together with us, to sit down with us, to give us our homework assignments and everything that we've got to do, would be better? Would that even be possible this week or next week? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not trying to push you, rush you. I'm just saying, we want to work with you to
Yes.
get the ball rolling.
Yes. Again, our process is as soon as you can.
The energy said,
We got to get the,
If you can get that
Energy
information to me ASAP.
And
Number
that-
two,
contact
that's that.
energy.
What I have here,
Okay.
that will answer all that question.
The second one, if you really want to get the ball rolling, because I just did this with another, that second contract, is through a co-op. If you go ahead and sign that one, now there is a walkway fee in that is, if I think that's the walkway fee under 20 to 30,000, somewhere in that range, if you decide not to do anything. If you do one thing, that's any kind of facility
Ooh,
improvement.
they just
one
take the,
HVAC,
they just take the free
then you can,
consultation.
sign that and move forward.
Free consultation.
I'm gonna have to let Attorney Turner over this one.
Sure, absolutely.
But,
And that's the second.
let's let-
That will accelerate the process tremendously.
Okay.
And if you can do that through a co-op, I don't know if y'all, if you're not part of CHIPS, all you have to do is go sign. The difficult part is done by ABM.
Walk away.
ain't mess with that.
20,000 walk away.
Yeah. Okay, this is,
And that's just basically, that second phase is because we're gonna have all our engineers.
this is the second phase.
That's right, the
So we
second
don't need
phase.
to sign this right now.
That will accelerate the process.
All right.
And the reason there's a walkaway fee is that we're gonna have so much staff involved in developing that plan, we're gonna have cost involved.
Gotcha.
but I got to take care of these books.
Yes, sir.
Do you need a copy of this?
Yes, sir.
I signed it. With approval of the board to sign the MOA with the listing, basically they want the list of school facilities, including square footage, utility information, gas, electric, water, mechanical issues, escorts provided by the list, access to the school district energy usage, conduct high school level site visit, and above facilities, and provide the district with a presentation of their findings. That's the MOA,
Did it say just the high school? It's not going to do all of them?
all of them, all of them. So I probably need a motion to sign the MOA on this in a second.
Mr. Board Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we agree to sign the MOA for the company
ABM,
ABM.
MOU, I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion that we sign the MOU for ABS.
Have a motion on the floor. Do I got a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand.
Whoa, wait a minute. We're not talking about spending any money yet.
No, this is
No, sir.
This
I just want to make sure we got that on record.
That's what's right
That
here.
blue folder say 20,000. That
Okay.
blue folder 20,000.
There you go, Dan.
All in favor, let it know by raising your right hand.
Okay.
All right.
That blue folder say 20,000.
Say what now?
That blue folder is 20,000.
What's the date, the 20th?
We ain't signing that.
20?
Today is the 20th.
20th.
We'll call you because we got,
This is Ms. Cleo that y'all been talking.
yeah, this is her. She's the
Okay.
key contact. If you want something done, you call her.
All right. Next on the agenda, 2023-2024 budget, Ms. Sharon Hubbard.
Good evening, Board Chairman, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Andrews. Tonight I will be presenting a preliminary budget for 23-24. Got it, thank you. So this is the three-year comparison of our budgets for general fund for 2021, 22, and 23. In 2021, our budget was adopted by our board and also was a continuing resolution because of COVID. So we adopted the same budget from 1920 for 2021. And then for 21-22, our budget was $38 million. And our current year budget is $41 million, a little over $41 million. And that is with a 2% salary increase, our $2,000 teacher salary increase, and the $1,000 bonus that we gave to all employees in the month of November.
From last year.
Yes, sir. This is just a pie chart with our budget revenues. Our budget revenues account for about 89% of local and state revenues. And then, of course, we have our federal indirect costs and our fund balance, which we have not been able to use because we generate savings in our general fund budget each year. This is our budget expenditures. As you can see, salaries and fringe account for about 83% of our budget. And the other 17% account for purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, and other objects and transfers. In FY23, the aid to classrooms funding model was adopted, which replaced our EFA formula. The EFA formula was a formula in how we receive our funds from our State Department of Education. The new aid to classrooms funding model replaced the EFA funding formula to allow school districts for greater funding flexibility and to increase accountability and transparency. Now, we do still use some aspects of this EFA formula, such as weighted pupil units and the district's index tax paying ability, which is a ratio that determines the wealth of a school district. And Marlboro County's taxpayer ability for 2023 is .00340. So I would like to report that what I found out when I went to attend a conference at the beach about 2 weeks ago, I learned that we experienced a loss of funding of about $1.5 million in state revenues due to the steady decline in student population. And I'm going to talk about enrollment in a few minutes. Marlboro County School District was one of 45 school districts that lost state funding, and of that 45, 13 school districts that gained students in their population growth, they also lost funding. So there are some caveats in this funding model that we call aid to classrooms. Funds were adjusted at 45-day counts, so the loss was realized in the district's January payments from the State Department. On the local side, ad valorem and local taxes are unknown at this time. I will be talking with the county to talk about what our ad valorem and other taxes will be for FY24. And both general operating and debt service millage rates will remain the same in '24. And as you know, our total millage is 218.28. Also, I would like to report that our CPI index grew from 4.7% to 8%, plus a growth factor, which we don't know what our growth factor is at this time. And the millage rates have not changed since 2012. And this is a calculation, a rough calculation of our mill value. On the local side, our mill value would be valued at $46,359. And that is a calculation from our ad valorem taxes that we took in FY23 and divided by our millage rate. And that's how the calculation of a mill value is done. On the state side, our mill value total about almost $30,000, which our total mill value would be $75,000. And this information is coming straight from our audit report for FY22. Also, the South Carolina Department of Revenue and Fiscal Affairs have not confirmed Tier 1 and Tier 2 payments, but Tier 3 payments will increase by $470,000. And also with our state revenue that we receive every year, such as our merchants inventory and our manufacturing depreciation, those payments are unknown at this time as well. This is a very early preliminary budget. We do not have firm numbers just yet. I expect to see those numbers in the month of April or May. As you recall, last year, we did not get final numbers until mid-June, so it's very possible that I will receive final numbers until June. Also, PEBA has not released information for the retirement credit just yet. So again, we're very early in the budget process. Now in FY23, the state rolled up our combined revenue line items for this new funding model called Aid to Classrooms. They rolled up 5 funds, our 3186, which was our teacher salary revenue, state aid fringe, our EFA, which was a big component of state funding, our at-risk revenue, and our teacher salary supplement and fringe, and also our aid to school districts.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
you say state aid for teacher salary revenue code 3186. Do you know what 3186 means, or it's just a...
It was a supplement to help with our teacher
Right.
salaries.
Okay.
That's all
okay.
it was. But we don't have those funds anymore because they rolled that money up into the new aid to classrooms allocation. So those funds no longer exist on our books. The state does not give us funds for these categories anymore.
Okay.
Because it was rolled up to aid to classroom.
Thank you. None of them on this page.
That's correct.
All right.
In addition, for FY24, they also rolled up some other funds that we were receiving separately. Our student health and fitness, our nurses' salaries, our nurses' funding, industry certificates, K-12 technology, and career specialist funding. They also rolled those funds up too in our aid to classrooms allocation for next year's budget.
So the term rolled up means it's gone.
It's gone. It's combined into another in the aid to classrooms formula. So we have the funding.
We didn't
it's just
lose
not
it.
in that area, not in those areas
Okay.
anymore. That's correct.
Got it. Okay.
So this is a snapshot of what our revenue would look like. This is our proposed revenue snapshot. In the second column from the right, those were the numbers that we received from conference committee. Conference committee is the last entity that will receive our budget and give us our final numbers. The budget always is established in the House first, and then it goes to Senate, and then it goes back to the House, and then it goes for conference committee with 3 senators and 3 House of Representatives. That's the conference committee. And as I indicated before, in the month of June, that's when we were able to receive those funds, the allocation of $37 million. The last column on this spreadsheet is a proposed revenue allocation. And what I've done, I've highlighted 2 areas. This is the new funding. This is called the aid to classrooms allocation. Aid to classroom general fund and aid to classrooms EIA. And we're going to receive about $18 million for FY24. Again, this is very preliminary.
That's not by the House proposed.
This is a House projection, that's correct. It's very preliminary. It's subject to change. It is definitely subject to change.
Excuse me, what does under county penalty, what exactly does that mean on the second line?
Taxes that are late, so there is a penalty.
Okay,
That's what that
okay.
is. Yes,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
And we account for those in our local revenue and our ad valorem, so that does count for our ad valorem.
So basically, for the House version, our budget would be $38,098,505.
That's correct. Now, keep in mind also, in this spreadsheet, there are some things that I did not budget for just yet because those numbers are unknown at this time.
Right.
So it may be a little more or it may be a little less. It's too soon to tell at this point. But I try to keep things consistent, and I tend to budget on the conservative side, just because we are very new in this aid to classroom allocation funding.
Okay.
Because the methodology has changed with this funding, and it's always changing. As I reported before, we lost about $1.5 million because of a decline in student population. And I'm going to talk about enrollment in a few minutes. Student enrollment. So this chart shows average daily membership for 45-day and 135-day. All school districts report the average daily membership of our students at 45 days and also at 135 days. And as you can see on this chart, beginning in 2018, 2019, that was before COVID, we lost about, between the 45-day count and the 135-day count, we lost about 113 students. And this is again before COVID. 2019, 2020, we lost about 10 students. 2021, we lost about 28 students. In 21, 22, we lost about 48 students. Overall, that's about 200 students that we've lost in that time period. That equates to about $790,000 in revenue lost over that 5-year period because of our student enrollment decline. So it's very important that we have a good, accurate count when it comes to our ADM and our student enrollment in our schools. Yes, sir.
When you say ADM, please.
Average daily membership.
So that's reported at all our schools
Yes,
from the
that's correct.
principals.
Ms. Ellison does a great job in making sure that our student enrollments are done at each school on a daily basis. We get a spreadsheet every day reporting that attendance.
Right.
And I can tell you that attendance that I see on the spreadsheets every day does not equate to 3,700 students. It's more like 2,800 students that we see, we count for students every day in classes in all our schools. So that 3415 that you see for 22-23, that is the 45th day count for our students. So we had 3,415 students that was counted on, I think our 45th day was October 18th. So on October 18th, we counted 3,415 students. And that equates to money, so that's why it's very important that we have accurate numbers when it comes to our student enrollment. We counted 3,400 students on that particular day. And at that point in time, it's like a snapshot in time that we received funding. So with the loss that we experienced, the $1.5 million that we lost in funding with state funds, that was because we had a decline from the 135-day count in 22 to the 45th day count in 22-23. So they took funds away from us, and it equated to about $1.5 million, in addition to the fact that we had the student enrollment and other factors that was considered for the loss.
Ms. Hubbard,
Yes.
do we have a figure anywhere? I mean, we're talking 350 kids from 2019 to 2023 that we got less. Do we have a count anywhere on teachers? I mean, do we still have the same amount of teachers? Do we have more teachers than we had in 2019? Do we have the same amount? We have less? We got less kids.
Right.
So do we have the same amount of teachers or do we have less teachers?
I mean, it varies because, with attrition, retirement, going to other school districts, that varies. That's a number that is variable.
Okay,
So,
I was just curious though, because if we got 350 less kids, it would stand to reason we need less teachers. And I'm
Right.
just curious on how that's working within our school system, because that contributes to our budget.
So we've had budget meetings and we talked about staff allocations because, again, our staff allocations account for about 83% of our budget. So it's very important that we get it right with our budget. And what we found out is that we may have some instances where we can combine positions or what have you. So we're looking at those, and we are having discussions now about making sure that we account for those students and teachers ratio.
So-
Teachers versus
Ms. Hubbard,
teachers
so I think
versus
you're trying to-
students ratio.
Do we have like a hard number? 2018, let's say probably 300 maybe, I think he's asking, do you have like a specific number of teachers from 18 and 23? I know you said
I don't have that information,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I mean, that's something that I can get for you, if that's what you would like to see.
Yeah.
I think what
You want a
Mr.
hard number.
Drake is kind of referring to when he talk about the total number of students, but you got to realize that I think that count, that 45-day, 135-day count, include all the students across all grade levels.
That's correct.
So if you lose 2 students in each grade level across the board, it'll equate to a lot of students, but it won't equate to a student-teacher ratio that you will lose a teacher.
Yeah, but he just wanted the number of each one too.
Yeah, I think that, but I was just saying,
Yes, sir.
you have to lose a certain number per grade in
To
order to
lose a
lose
teacher.
a teacher.
And being that,
And there are some ratios that we have to go by in order to make sure we're at least at the standard, to make sure that we have a good student-teacher ratio. And the student-teacher ratio has been about 20 students to 1 teacher. So for instance, if we have 60 kids in the 5th grade, then we know that with the 20 to 1 ratio, we will have about 3 teachers to support the 60 children that's in that grade. So we are looking at those ratios.
Please don't misunderstand me. I don't want to cut any student short, but I know with COVID and different things, we've gone to computers, we've got the homeschooling, we've done things at home, we've got Elevate K-12, we got, different things that's going on, and I just wanted to make sure that we were treating it accordingly for our budget purposes as
That
far
is
as teacher
correct.
ratio.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
are looking at that information as we speak.
and I think at the point, a good point to make is that what we're 7 or 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 teachers short. Somebody can elaborate on that? Nobody?
I didn't hear your question, Mr. Coach.
We're short some teachers.
We're short teachers, about 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah,
So I don't know the number.
yeah, but you're correct. Yeah.
So
We still have some vacancies.
we have room for error on that,
Right.
with the short.
As
short
Mr. Andrews mentioned, that we do have quite a few vacancies in our schools. So,
Sounds good. Just bring the numbers is all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and what years would you like for it, Mr. Driggers? What years? What years would you like those numbers for?
For this year.
You was wanting for this
We've got
year.
350 less kids than we had in 19. I was just saying, we appropriately got less teachers? And what I'm hearing is we're saying that we got 7 or 8 vacancies, so I guess we've got less teachers, and that's fine. But I just asked for the numbers. Just show me that we're using that money correctly in our budget for our teachers, for our staff that you said was, what was it, 80% or whatever it was back then?
83%.
64% or whatever it is, whatever it is.
Just be on the safe side, you probably want
Yeah,
18.
just make sure we're using it
All the numbers.
efficiently is all I want to do.
Okay.
Ms. Hubbard, I have one question.
Yes.
That 3415, you said it was a snapshot in time from October, like a day in October, correct?
That's correct.
So is there any rhyme or reason why they pick just that particular day and don't do like an average? Because what
That
if
is
just a lot of people miss school that
Yes.
day?
Well, that's a state mandate
Okay.
that we do a snapshot at 45th day, which it happens to be our October 18th. And I'm not sure what the date is in the 135th day count, but I think it would be somewhere in the month of April, I'm not sure. But I'm sorry, someone said something?
Is it March?
March?
Oh, tomorrow.
No, March.
March.
Oh, March.
March.
Think so.
Sometime in March
That's a
would be
problem, that's
the 135th day count.
They said it's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Yeah, so,
So it's another count tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
I think it's another count tomorrow.
Right, so again, 135th day count would be in, and then we'll find what that number is, and then the state reviews that information, and they adjust our funding accordingly.
Is there any way we can like stress to the people to attend school on those days,
They have done, the principals have done a good job in providing incentives to children to come to school.
Well, I mean,
on
in
those
general, of
45th
course,
day and
but on those
135th day.
particular snapshot
Yes.
days.
They have like Kona Ice to come out, have like some type of, instructional or some leisure type of activity that the children can do to encourage attendance in schools on those particular days.
Okay.
So this is our, again, our a snapshot of the 45th day average daily attendance by location. BIS 222, BPS 499, Wallace 402, McCall 605, Clio 189, Blenheim 448, and the high school at 1,050. That totaled at 3,415 students. So this is the enrollment trend for primary elementary schools, which we have those 5 schools that fall in that category for 135th day. And you can see those numbers across the board. You know, you see the increases and decreases in those populations at those schools. And it could be several reasons why that might be. Like for instance, Clio Elementary is a transient population. So you have students coming in and out of that community for whatever reason. And that will be the reason for, a possible reason why that decline would show for in their student population.
And Benson Intermediate has dropped tremendously, it looks like.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, was that a part of when we moved?
I'm sorry.
The move to Blenheim?
Yes.
Yeah.
18, 19 wouldn't have been, they moved to Blenheim before that. Blenheim's been in operation longer than that.
As a middle school for the district? Did that happen up under previous administration during that time?
Blenheim finished up in 2010 or 2011, I think. School was completed in that time frame.
But was it all middle school since then?
No, not for 13 years. No.
It hadn't been all middle school.
Easily 4 or 5. I know Clio relocated, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it's happened during that time.
If that, it hasn't been 13 years.
So that's when we moved the School of Discovery out there also with other kids up on the previous administration. That just happened 17, 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that number should match that. I guess somebody else can elaborate on that.
Well, we can,
I can look that up.
I believe
I'm
if that
not
were the
sure.
case, then you would see Blenheim would be increasingly higher that year also.
we can
There
look
was
at
a Blenheim
we can
Middle
get some
School in
specific
2018 to 19. That's all I can see on this page. This next page, it shows it. There was a Blenheim Middle School in 2018 to 19 also. But I don't know, we'll see.
So again, this information comes straight from the State Department when we report those numbers to the state. And our middle and high school, this is our average daily membership for 135th day for the 4 years. And as you can see, the high school has held steady in the past 2 years at 981 and 982. Where Blenheim Middle has experienced a decline in their student population. The projected student enrollment based on the budget information that I received from the principals. This is their projection of what their student population would look like for 24, the last number for each school location. And this is for middle and high school for those 3 years.
So the high school's picking up. It's an increase.
It's possible the reason why that is an increase is because there are going to be some repeat students taking failing at least 2 course credits, and they're repeating the 9th grade, is a possible reason why that might be inflated there.
And these are all estimates, is what you're saying,
These
correct?
are estimates, that's correct.
Because I look at the feeder schools, and all the feeder schools have gone down in projection, but the high school is going up. So if the middle schools all go down and high school's going up, I don't quite understand how that operates, but maybe we thinking people are going to be transferring in. I don't know.
I want to say I recognize that on maybe a previous presentation we had where our 8th grade class currently is larger than in previous years. So maybe they're all transitioning to the high school. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I guess.
Could be a larger 8th grade class.
That's what it has been. I think so.
And like, for instance, BIS, and we'll go back to BIS, experienced an increase in student population, and that's because Bennettsville Primary has a large 3rd grade class that's going over to BIS in '24. So that would account for the increase of students coming from BPS to BIS. That would be just an example. So our other budgetary considerations would include that the high school is now considered a Title I school, but it would be considered that in FY24 due to the poverty rate. So Marlboro County High School, Marlboro County School District would be Title I district-wide. And right now we're in discussions with federal programs, finance, and HR to determine how best to allocate funds to Marlboro County High School. In addition, the school district will receive additional federal funding, the ATSI and priority funding due to the new poverty designation at the high school. And we have not received that allocation amount just yet. So allocation amounts are unknown at this time. So our budget priorities, the board budget priorities for '24, provide living wage increase for all employees, attract and retain highly qualified staff, bridge gaps in learning loss in literacy, math, and attendance, and provide a safe and conducive learning environment throughout the district. So the Board of Trustees approved a $2 per hour increase for classified staff for fiscal year '24. Classified staff includes bus drivers, custodians, food service, teacher assistants, maintenance, and administrative support staff. So this is what it would cost with the $2 increase, $2 per hour increase, about $800,000. That includes the step. And this also includes fringe.
That's for everybody.
Yeah, that's the entire.
For all classified staff.
Yeah.
So with the State Department of Education, in addition to what we're doing as a local decision, the state is proposing that bus drivers receive a 20% salary increase. Currently, the
That
bus
2% or 20%?
20%. Currently, our bus drivers' hourly rate, beginning hourly rate is $12.86 an hour. With the $2 per hour increase, the hourly rate would be $14.86 per hour. If this proviso is enacted, the beginning hourly wage of our bus driver could be approximately about almost $18 per hour, which is almost a $3 per hour increase.
Now, the state gonna pay for this? Or are they asking us to pay for this?
Sometimes they pass down these things and you're unfunded. So they're saying they're gonna give us money, but it's too soon to tell right now what they're gonna do for us.
What did they base the 20% on? What was the salary they based the 20% on?
It has something to do with state employees that make less than $83,000 a year.
Less than what?
$83,000
Less than
a year.
$83,000,
Of course,
okay.
our bus drivers do make 83,000, at least, less than $83,000 a year. It was tied into a state employee benefit, and they just tied in bus drivers. I'm not sure why the mad push for bus drivers. As you remember, last year, they gave bus drivers an 8% increase. And then a local decision was to give our bus drivers a 2%. So they actually received a 10% raise last year. So I'm not sure what the mad push is for our bus drivers to receive these incentives in the past 2 years.
Are you saying all state employees that make less than $83,000 a year is going to get a 20% raise?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it was tied to
That's what
a proviso that they want to enact for FY24. And the proviso is difficult in its understanding, but somehow they tied in bus drivers as a way to incentivize their pay.
And some of it's based on shortage of drivers as well.
How about school teachers that's making less than $83,000? Are they tied into it also?
No,
But she
I
just said
agree.
she
I
don't
agree
know
with
why is
what
the
you're
push
saying.
for
Not tied to classified teachers, classified staff into
I know what you're saying.
assistant teachers.
You can't treat people different. I mean,
Well, that's what the proviso says. So,
Excuse
you
me,
know,
Ms.
we
Hubbard.
don't know if that's going to pass or not, but that's something that they're considering
What stages are they in the proviso? Like, where are we at?
very early. We
you
just
say
started
early?
budget in January, so we still have until like May or June before a final budget is adopted.
Okay, no, Chair Coachman had asked, where the state willing to, I guess, take on the cost?
They're talking about it right now, but that can change.
Is it heavy or no, or
It's
get
too
a feel
soon to
of it?
tell. This is very preliminary. And I'm sorry to keep saying that, but it is very early in the process. I'm hoping to know
Mr. McCray, we
more
have a day at the
numbers about
Capitol coming up soon.
in the month of April or so.
Going to.
go back, give me a state job.
Certified staff salary considerations through the State Department of Education. So the governor is proposing that the starting salary for a first-year teacher with bachelor's degree is $42,500, which equates to adding $2,500 to each cell on the South Carolina State minimum salary scale. Right now, our first-year teachers are making a little over $40,000.
We close?
So with this new change, we'll add $2,500 to each cell to bring the starting salary to $42,500 for a beginning teacher. And his goal is to increase teacher salary, starting salary to $50,000 by 2026. So you're talking about at least 3 years away. He's wanting to incentivize our teachers by giving them a beginning salary of $50,000. Also, to incentivize teachers or certified staff is to pay out $2,500 bonuses to be paid at least twice a year. So $1,250 in the month of December and $1,250 in the month of May.
No. Twice a year?
Yes. The $2,500. That's their proposal. Now, is it going to pass? We don't know.
What bill is this?
This is not really a bill. This is just a governor's proposal. The governor's proposal.
It'll all come to
Yeah, it's
us.
government. It's not our proposal.
You said $1,250. Did you mean
It's a good thing if it
$2,500?
passes. I mean,
No, it's
needed.
$1,250
They're
for
gonna
the month
fund
of December, $1,250 for the month of May.
Okay.
Yes.
it. I mean, it's definitely needed. They're gonna help fund it.
Other agencies already.
Right.
Staff salary considerations, local decision. A proposal that each, and this is just a proposal, this has not been voted on, that each full-time employee receive $3,000 annual bonus to be paid in 2 installments in November and May. The approximate cost for about 600 employees is about $2.5 million, including fringe. So that would be the cost if you wanted to approve a $3,000 bonus for all our full-time employees. It would cost us $2.5 million.
That's certified and classified?
That's everybody. That's 600 employees.
And when you say annual, you're talking about reoccurring every year?
It's up to the board.
Yeah. All right, but that's the proposal you have up there.
That is, that is a
Yeah.
proposal.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
You would have to vote, you voted every year.
You got to vote it every year, but that's the proposal, it's up
Yes,
there
sir.
annual, every year. Okay.
Yes,
all right.
Sir. Also, HR is doing a finder's fee for friend referrals to seek certified and dedicated educators to serve the students in Marlboro County. So for instance, if there's an employee who refers a friend to do an online application through our portal, and they actually sign a contract for the 23-24 year, they will receive $750 as a finder's fee. And it's unlimited. So the number of people that you talk to, every time you would talk to a person, you would receive $750 if they sign a contract for the 23-24 year.
So how long do they have to stay the entire contract for the $750?
They
How
would have
long
to
is
stay the
the
whole
contract?
year. Yes, they would have to stay. Now, I'm not sure what the duration is, but I would think it would be more than a year. They wouldn't be able to be hired and then leave.
But the actual person that's in the district, you can do unlimited, uncapped referrals.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Also, to address our shortage of staff, job fairs are continued to be held to address both classified and certified staff shortages. And I believe that there is a job fair scheduled, a career changes job fair that has been scheduled for the end of this month at the high school. And we're looking for a great turnout with that particular job fair. And also, don't forget that the board voted to have a consultant to come in and conduct a salary study to address our salary scales. So more information to follow with that vendor.
You said it's already been approved?
It has been approved, yes. And we've already selected the vendor, and the vendor's name is called Evergreen Consultants.
So the consultants are going to come in and conduct,
I'm sorry?
they're going to conduct a salary study and bring us that results.
That's correct.
And that's going to happen when?
We have not gotten back with the company just yet for a timeline. That's to be decided in the next few weeks or so.
Okay. And I guess I'm maybe the only one that feels this way, but those bonuses of $3,000, I've stated this before, I would like very much for those to be tied to the evaluation of the teacher or the certified person or any staff member, because I'm afraid I may get in trouble here, but I'm afraid some of my staff members might not deserve the $3,000 and some may deserve it. I'd like to tie it to evaluation of what their job performance is.
Or senator, basically.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking that question. They're
Yes.
gonna come in and give us they're gonna conduct a salary study and look at it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
right. We actually talked about that this morning in our meeting, that those bonuses be possibly tied to merit-based.
Yeah.
Merit-based performance instead of just everybody arbitrarily receiving a bonus.
If they're doing a good job, I have no problem with it, but I mean, I'm not sure if we blanket.
That's correct.
Well, from the
Ms. Hubbard.
superintendent's chair, I will tell you, and I'll do what my boss tells me to do, but I think it should be tied to performance all the way across the board. I know we have a teacher shortage, but at the same time, and I've said it for a long time, and I'll continue to say it, I'd rather have a good substitute teacher that loves children in their classroom working hard than a teacher sitting in there not doing anything. And we've got some of that, and we need to clean it up. And I take responsibility for that as your superintendent.
My sentiments exactly. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Hubbard, is that the same as the retention bonus that we had talked about earlier?
You talking about the $1,000, or you
Yep.
talking about the $1,000? This is similar, yes. It's just a higher amount. the $1,000 bonus is what we gave in the month of
Right.
November.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know since I've been here, we've been giving those $1,000 bonuses out in the month of November. So the proposal is to increase that, but it's up to the board on what the
Okay.
decision would be.
I think we talked about increasing it to 1,500 for this year, didn't it? But it had to be incentive based. Didn't we bring that up? Y'all, nobody remember that but me?
Repeat it.
Seems like I remember that.
We was talking about doing the bonuses for the classified staff, and from 1,000 to 1,500, but they had to be incentive based. I don't know if y'all had came on the board or not before we discussed it.
Well, this is just the first read, so
Yeah.
I understand that.
But even
I think
though-
we should look at incentive base for
Even though it's
everything.
the first reading, like, the bottom one kind of, when was that approved?
The
Was that-
Evergreen
Was
Consultants.
that prior to the
was
new
before
members
us.
also? or-
Yeah.
That was,
prior to
we
the-
approved that a long time ago. I
Yeah,
figured we would already
it's been
have
months. I
results
forgot
back.
how long it's been.
Do we know what to hang up on, get that done is?
The vendor needs to just contact us. If they don't contact us by the end of this week, we will be making contact with them.
Probably been a year.
Okay.
Do we feel that is necessary to continue on with that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right.
The consultant would give us an unbiased view of what our salary scales will look like. And I think at this point, we need that viewpoint.
Well, let me ask you another question on that. Even when you're doing a salary study and that put the district in line with, where we get in line to see where we need to be. I remember some years ago, we also did staffing standards to see where we are compared, number of positions we have versus what we should, with the size district we have. I think we did a study like that. It's been years ago, but we hadn't did one of those in a while, have we? Do anyone know?
Not that I'm aware of.
It would be a comprehensive, therefore that information would be
It will be
considered as
included in
well.
that.
Okay.
It should be
Yes.
included.
Okay.
Yes,
Because-
that would be taken into consideration.
Right, because the reason why I was saying, I know when you come down to budget and looking at money, and you're talking about what we're paying people, then you have to look at the total number of employees, that's what I'm thinking. Because I know before when we did a staffing standard, a study on that before, we was looking at the number of people we had at each position.
That's correct.
And versus the number of students.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Yeah, it should
That's
be a part of
correct.
that.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, sir. So again, this is our FTEs by school location, and this is just the 7 schools. We have about almost 500 FTEs, and this number also includes our vacancies. Now, I didn't break out the vacancies versus the field positions, and I can provide that information as well, but we have about 494 FTEs in the schools, including our CAPE department. So there has been some talk about changing the number of days of our guidance counselors and our social workers. Currently, they're a 210-day contract, and to possibly move them to a 220-day contract because of the implementation of the modified calendar for FY24.
it should, yeah,
So the 10 extra days
that should have been
could
changed.
be
Yeah.
something that could be a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It will only, and then we could just see and play it by ear on how it would benefit the calendar and teachers and students for this 1 year if we want to continue
Yep.
with it in future years. So I looked at the cost of the 10 days for these 2 categories of teachers. It's about almost $50,000 to implement that. Now, the alternative to that is not to give them the 10 extra days, but allow them to come back early to assist with registration and that kind of thing, and then give those days back to them during like intercession or some other time in the year that they could take those days off.
Yeah. I think we need those guidance counselors and social workers in those schools anytime we got children in our schools. So it definitely need to have them there in the schools during the time of instruction.
And I think that we need them, at least the high school guidance counselors there at the tail end of the school year for a few weeks after the students leave to help with the transition of getting transcripts to the colleges so they're not losing scholarships.
So with the high school counselors, they're 240 days, so they're there July through June.
Okay.
These guidance counselors and social workers are at the elementary school,
Okay.
and they're 210 days.
So these are just the elementary school ones?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. And we were saying in our conversations this morning that from the superintendent's seat that this would be for this, only this summer because we're transitioning to the modified calendar, and then we would look at it budget-wise next year if the need was there or if we may not need it.
Right.
So it wouldn't be permanent, it would be just one time.
Let's do it one time. That's correct. So there are some other cost increase considerations we have to consider when building our budget for FY24, and that includes the state mandate that we increase our retirement rate by 1%. So our current retirement rate is 23.81%. It will raise it to 24.81%. And that is the employer portion of the retirement rate. The employee rate currently is 9%, and that will remain unchanged. Also, there's a 3.7% increase in the employer health insurance rate. The employee portion of the health insurance rate may experience a nominal increase, and both rates are established by PEVA, which stands for Public Employees Benefits Authority out of Columbia. Also, we have to consider pay step increase considerations. And again, we're reviewing staff allocations district-wide. Schools and departments have a wish list, but considerations will be given based on need. So for instance, like our special ed teachers, if we want to stay out of special ed jail, we will fund those special ed teachers where we see a need in those locations. And so I've already received a list from our special ed director regarding her need in those schools to address and take care of our special needs population. And we also will continue to review contracts for services rendered. So addressing learning loss. Since COVID, it's been a hot topic that, all school districts address learning loss. And some of the things that we're doing to address learning loss is that we purchased a platform to provide tier 2 and tier 3 instruction. Dr. Walsh reported last month to you guys this platform to provide that tier instruction to help our students learn. We also held summer school academies K through 8, as well as content and credit recovery for grades 9 through 12. We also purchased high-level text for our students, in particular our elementary and our middle schools. We also contracted with literacy and math curriculum consultants to help our teachers. And we also use the Elevate K-12, the Edgenuity, and Edmonton virtual platforms to provide instruction virtual for our students. We also purchased one-to-one devices for all our students, and even we purchased devices for our refresh cycles. And we also purchased hotspots for students with no internet connectivity. So these are some of the things that we are using, a combination of our general fund, our ESSER funds, addressing learning loss for our students. As you well know, the Board of Trustees adopted the modified calendar for 23-24 school year. So that means that our regular school district schedule will resume in the month of July. We have a short summer to get ready for our students to come back. The first day for teachers will be July 24th, and our first day for students will be July 31st. And then our intersession weeks and downtime are dispersed throughout the modified calendar to prevent burnout and learning loss. So there are some benefits to implementing the modified calendar.
Ms. Hubbard, Is there a way to get an estimate on how much it would cost to fund a few teachers coming in on our intersession weeks and doing catch up with our lowest grade in 20%?
We can certainly look at that.
I would appreciate that.
We're almost done.
Okay, providing safe facilities. So we're gonna be installing and doing training, conducting training on the use of metal detectors to take place at all our schools. Also, our local legislative delegation provided or donated clear book bags, lunch bags, and water bottles for all our students for FY24. We also implemented the Move This World curriculum, which is a social and emotional curriculum used in all our schools. And that helps with the bullying, anxiety, those kinds of emotional based things that go on with our students and our staff on a daily basis. We also hired a grant-funded mental health professional to cover 4 schools in our attendance area. We also partnered with Care South to provide 3 mental health professionals to cover 3 of the remaining schools. And that's working out very well. And school security is provided by both city and county law enforcement due to the good relationship we have with district and the city and county. So those are some of the things that we are implementing to ensure that we have safe facilities. In addition, with our ESSA funding, we also enhance air quality by replacing roofs, installing HVACs, windows, and security measures in our schools and adult ed building. And we'll be moving the AMI program to the newly renovated School of Discovery building in Clio. We also we will be implementing an automated work order system to handle maintenance requests. And I think Herbert McNeil spoke to you in our last meeting about that. And I think the vendor's name is School Dude. And we'll also be finalizing our 3 to 5 year capital projects plan. Fiscal impact statements, I've answered quite a few of them from the State Department. The House fiscal impact considerations would be the Transparency and Integrity in Education Act, the Special Needs Student School Bus Attendance, and the Education and Workforce Readiness. I want to speak to the last fiscal impact consideration because it impacts our adult ed program. So what they're proposing is to move our adult ed program to the technical college to increase graduation rate and to also ensure that our adult population is career ready in our industries, in our communities.
That's 8, 40, 60?
60, yes. The fiscal impact would be detrimental to the school district.
Yep.
About $550,000 would be the fiscal impact if that is implemented by the State Department. So we've already been heard, and other school districts are following suit and having their voices heard that this would be a bad idea for Marlboro County.
Very bad.
Real bad.
Yes.
Very bad.
For the simple fact that every time you turn around and Northeastern Tech comes over here, they always come in with a handful of gimme and a mouthful of much obliged.
Yeah.
And they never bring us anything.
Yes, sir.
Exactly right.
Well said. And on the Senate side, the considerations include professional development, public school drills, free school meals, booster clubs, school trustees, and youth access to nicotine. And I want to speak to a few of these fiscal impacts. Start with the free school meals. So what they want to do is to move the window to serve lunch from 10 to 2 to 11 to 2, reducing it by 1 hour. That means our students will have to be in line, get their trays, sit down, eat, and be out by 2, be served by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. As a result, if this is passed, this will also be a detriment to our school district because it will increase our costs.
This is in the Senate,
Yes, this is in the Senate right now.
so they make a decision on what we do with our children in schools for feeding them.
Yes.
And-
And we think that it should be a local decision.
Yeah, okay.
And it's, you know, and they're taking this up right now. Now, keep in mind that the General Assembly is on furlough this week, so they're not talking about the budget because they're home. But when they come back in the next week or so, they're gonna be picking up these fiscal impacts and reviewing and looking at them. So this would be a detriment to Marlboro County School District if this is implemented. That will increase our cost to around $900,000. That will cost us $900,000 to prepare bagged lunches, pay overtime for our food service workers who are already understaffed and underpaid. Also, cost for installation of serving lines. So those kinds of costs will be considered if something like this would pass.
So you're saying cutting an hour will cost us more money?
It will cost us
Going
more
from
money if
10
we
to
shorten
2.
that window. That's correct.
And I'm pretty sure, does the Senate have they gotta have some kind of model. They're not just going on any just Joe Blow.
I'm not sure.
So we haven't even seen the model that they're using to vote on?
No, they just tell us that we need to
They gotta
figure
have
out
some
what it
kind of
costs.
You can go online and look at the proposed bill.
But even though you look at the bill, they gotta have some kind of model that's saying, I'm gonna look at this to say, determine this.
Not necessarily. That's the Senate. Sometimes they don't even have a reason.
That's true. And also with Booster Club, just so you know, that they're asking that the treasurer for our Booster Clubs register with the school board, and that's a minimum cost of $25 for a background check. But that's not happened in the past, where our Booster Club treasurer will have to register with our school board. That would be a cost, a nominal cost, but it would be something different if this is enacted. And the school trustees so we have 5 new members on our board. So what they're proposing is to move those elections for, as if it was like electing the president of the United States, like for a general election, and during the even number years. So most of you were elected in 2023. So in order to comply with that, you would have to have an election in 2024 to meet that mandate. We would have to pay at least $300 for advertising fee to the Marlboro County Herald as a result of that proviso. So that fiscal impact statement.
You're saying the 4 or 5 just came on in 2023?
We would have to do another election in 24.
For
They have to run this year.
They would have to run, that's correct.
November to be.
That's correct.
Well, I thought,
In order for it to be uniform with the president or a general election.
So that means the whole board would run at the same time?
And I'm not sure what the other board members' terms are, but I know we are staggered right now.
Right.
But this would be more in line, it would keep all the board elections in line and comply with this fiscal impact.
right, I was looking at that bill, and I was understanding that with the odd numbers, with the 22, 24, like that, I know people come on boards all throughout the year, and I thought they was trying to get it where all board members across the state come in either on a 22, 24, 26.
Right.
Like
Yes,
that because.
the even number years.
Right.
The even number years, that's correct.
And I think most of us we was elected on the even number. 22, we just came.
2022, we won't come up to 2026.
We got one who was elected in off time in 2023, and I think would affect you, but you will be up for election anyways, right? 24, you was up anyways. And I know you got a lot of other school districts across the state
in the same
that-
situation.
Right, that they elect people in March and June, and I think it more so can apply more to them than it would us, I believe now.
And I'm not sure what the mad push is with trying to, make sure that's, that we comply with that. But that could possibly be something that's passed.
We'll find
this
out
fiscal
on it.
year. I would like to remind you that our spending cutoff deadline is for our general fund spending is March 31st, and our state and federal fund spending cutoff is May 15th.
Right.
And this is the remainder of the budget calendar. April 3rd, HR will bring certified recommendations to be presented, and those contracts are due back May 11th. And our next board workshop would be April 24th.
Okay?
Okay, do you have any other questions?
I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the information. All right. Next on the agenda, we have executive session, superintendent search, selection of candidates, and receipt of legal advice for threatening and pending claim, including the Jewel litigation. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Discuss these matters.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session to discuss superintendent search, selection of candidates, receipt of legal advice for threats, pending claims, including Jewel litigation.
Do I have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Now in executive session.
I think we're ready.
Need a motion to go back into open session?
Mr. Chair, I move that we go back into open session.
I have a motion. I get a second. Second. A motion and a second. Now back in. All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. All opposed? Back in open session. No action was taken. Nothing was done in executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Gaten.
I'd like to make a motion that we move that the board accept the settlement offer from Jewel Lab, Inc., and direct the superintendent and the board's attorney at White and Story to execute the appropriate settlement documents.
We have a motion. Second. We have a motion and a second to accept the Jewel class action lawsuit settlement with the school district. All in favor, let me know by saying, raising your right hand. All right, it is unanimous. We will accept the payment, and I'd like to thank our attorney, Ms. Story, for handling that for us. We really appreciate that. Any other discussion or action?
Mr. Chair, I move to select the following individuals as finalists for the superintendent position: Dr. Martin Wright and Dr. Ronald Tarchichi.
So motion on the floor to accept the two finalists for the Marlboro County School District Superintendent position, Dr. Ronnie Wright and Dr. Martin Wright and Dr. Ronnie Tarchichi.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. All right. Any other business?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Vice Chair.
I move that we adjourn.
Have a motion by the Vice Chair to adjourn,
I'll second that.
and second by Mr. Driggers. All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand. This meeting is adjourned.
Sounds like a plan.